Are you ready for combat night?
All right, we are back with another installment of the Combat Crew. I'm Ramsey White, and I am joined today by a man who has been around the cage in a number of different capacities, from being a coach. He's had guys fight on the card. He's cornered them. He's a judge of amateur and pro bouts. And from that perspective, I'd like to introduce Hank Porcher.
Hey, how are you doing?
Doing well.
Where am I supposed to look here? That
You
camera?
can just look at me.
Okay.
Unless you want to address the audience directly, you can look over there.
No.
So glad to have you, Hank.
Good to be here.
I've known you for, I guess about a dozen years now, coming up
At
on.
least, yeah.
And I had an experience with you specifically in like your gym that was kind of unique for me in my process and my progress in becoming a part of Combat Night. I know you in the first few years that we kind of knew each other or were around each other, I was just always somebody that was around when Mitch was around.
Right.
And I was just snapping away photos, and like whenever I captured a photo of you and your team having a prayer before a fight.
Yeah, that was your photo. I love that photo.
Yeah, that was and once somebody from your gym reached out and they wanted to give it to you as a present, so they wanted it like without a watermark or whatever. And then I came to your gym with Mitchell and saw it hanging on your wall there.
Yep.
And that was for me in my like progression of like being involved in doing things, like seeing something like that where it's like, this is just a photo of hundreds that I captured on a given night, but seeing how it like meant something to a team and to a group in that way was like special to me.
Well, that night was pretty special. I think we had 6 or 7 guys on the card that night, and you caught us all saying a prayer before we started. And I'm pretty sure everybody on the card won.
Yeah,
so that was a big night. Yeah. And then the really different part about that is the person who reached out to you wasn't even a martial arts person. It was a CrossFit person, Lindsay Marcinek. So, well, now Lindsay Patch. Sorry, Lindsay, if you're listening.
So yeah, and so that, man, I want to say that was like 2013 or 2014. It was quite a long time ago. But
Hell was fighting then.
Yeah, was that his last fight?
Yeah, I think it might have been.
And the number of guys, Tan was strong that night. I know Angel fought that night, and Jose fought that night, and
Erica Brew fought that night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a gang of them. Gabriel.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of let the folks who don't know who you are or like how you've been involved or what your background is or anything like that.
Okay.
Kind of get to know you a little bit better. If you've been to Combat Nights, you've likely seen Hank in or around in the mix. Like I said, he's been a judge, and you've officiated some fights, and like I said, coached and cornered a number of guys over the years on many different levels, not just Combat Night, all the way up to the UFC.
Right.
So just tell us a little bit about your background and how you got involved with combat sports.
How far back do you want me to go? How to get involved in combat sports? I wrestled in high school. I wrestled in college. I wrestled at Clemson University D1 school, and then at University of Central Florida D2 school. Grossly underperformed because I chased girls and partied a little bit too much. After getting out of college, I was just trying to do something to stay fit and stay competitive. So I got into bodybuilding, and
I've seen the photos. Raina, pull that up.
No. Hey, Jamie, don't do that. I'll only do that if you agree to go topless for the whole show.
And he means me.
So I got into training and lifting weights. There just wasn't much else to do after you're done being in college sports after that. But then bodybuilding took 4 hours a day. So that was too much when I started raising a family. I started wrestling again, and got a couple buddies from the old Soviet Union. Actually, our last club, we had 3 guys from the old Soviet Union that were master of sport. So I probably learned more about wrestling then than I ever learned at any other time. And one of my best friends, Avto Goglashvili, was one of the top wrestlers in the world. So I learned a ton from him. In fact, he's down at Ben's.
Oh, Ben Stark?
Yeah, he's down at Ben's place and coaches wrestling. So shameless plug for Ofto and Ben. If you guys are down in that area, you ought to go see Ofto's wrestling class, because he's forgot more about wrestling than most of us even ever knew. Then I moved from West Palm Beach up to Oviedo, and I was coaching the wrestling team there. And I didn't have a bunch of guys that I could work out with wrestling wise. So I just looked up jiu-jitsu, went to a jiu-jitsu school. Once a few of the MMA guys figured out that I coached wrestling, they asked me to start coaching them. Started coaching them on wrestling for MMA.
This is circa what?
2010.
Okay.
Maybe 2009, somewhere 2009. Yeah, 2009. And then they also found out that I did strength and conditioning for wrestling team. They asked me if I could start doing it for them. So we would do strength and conditioning in the parking lot at Gracie Baja, and then subsequently the parking lot at Alliance, BJJ, for the MMA athletes. And they would ask me, "What are you doing?" And I explained the circuits we were doing, trying to get them a little bit better and better conditioning. They go, "Oh, you're doing CrossFit." Well, at that time, I didn't know what CrossFit was. So I Googled CrossFit. We're doing something close to that. So then I would just tell everybody we're doing CrossFit. And a couple years later, we opened a CrossFit gym and had mats inside it. So guys would train jiu-jitsu, train MMA, and could also do the strength and conditioning piece.
So I imagine that was kind of unique at that time, because I mean, CrossFit would have only been 4 or 5, 6 years old at that time, and then intermixing it with the jiu-jitsu, you still don't really see that too many places.
No.
But it's a fantastic mix, even though I am part of your CrossFit gym, and there is a jiu-jitsu side of the gym, which is like what Raina is a part of, and she's one of the few people that actually, I say few, maybe there's a half a dozen or so, that consistently go between the both.
Forth,
but it is two very different communities. But there certainly is a tie-in between them in terms of the fitness aspect.
It is. Does that give you and then I started coaching the MMA athletes, and then through Jim Allers started coaching combat. Excuse me. I'm going to plug Cage Warriors also. So Cage Warriors, and then Jim got into the UFC, and we had a few guys that came through our gym that ended up going Combat Night and then on to the UFC. There's Nick Rourke who did it. Alton Meeks did it. So anyway.
Yeah. So did you ever, you competed even in your later years, right? In BJJ?
I competed in BJJ. Yeah.
I was looking through your Facebook's a little scrubbed right now, but you can still find like photos where your kids and stuff have tagged you in things. And I saw a photo that Thrasher or Callie posted that was like, my dad can beat up your dad. And it was when you won Worlds, was it IBJJF?
Yeah. I won Pans as a blue belt. I won Worlds as a purple. I won Worlds as a brown. And I took third as a black belt so far. So hopefully next year I can go back to black belt Worlds and try and get on the top of the podium.
Nice.
Yeah.
I guess all coaches don't necessarily compete, but that's cool to see that.
I like it. It's fun. Yeah.
So some of the things that, we've talked about on the side in terms of like, the process of coaching guys and trying to like help them like fill the gaps and stuff of what they're missing. Part of what we wanted to do with the pod is start bringing some people on that could help share some information and knowledge with guys that compete, and also help educate people that are viewing with different aspects of training and getting better. So we talked about like weight training a little bit for like MMA specific.
Well, okay. There's 3 energy systems that we all have. There's the aerobic energy system, there's a phosphogenic energy system, and there's a glycolytic energy system. We all have that. The aerobic energy system we're all familiar with. That's like the Kenyans running a marathon. So that we use that system as martial arts athletes. The phosphogenic energy system is like, it lasts for about 10 seconds. It's a sprint. It's really fast, or it's a really quick Olympic movement, and that's over that fast. And then the third system is a more difficult one. It's glycolytic energy system. It's like running a 400 meters. It'll last for, there's differing opinions, so don't hit, the comments are going to fill up on how long that is, but let's say 45 seconds to up to 2 minutes. In reality, I think it's 45 seconds to a minute, and that's it. And that's the energy system that we are most operating in mixed martial arts. We're operating in that probably 60 to 80% of the time. Now, that's not to say that all three energy systems aren't used. They are, and sometimes simultaneously they're being used, one right after the other. But the one that's probably most important for the MMA athlete is the glycolytic energy system. And so we started training that and trying to figure out how to increase that in our MMA athletes. At the same time, I want them to get stronger so that they wouldn't get injured and they'd be a little more powerful. But we also had to be very careful that they didn't increase in size, because most of them were bumping around close to the top of their weight class.
So at this time, this is when you said you were doing kind of like CrossFit style training prior to it being like officially CrossFit. Yeah. And so that's incorporating like all types of movements.
Types of movements. And I mean, what you have to recognize first is that these guys are MMA athletes. They're not trying to look like bodybuilders. They're not trying to clean and jerk 300 pounds. They're trying to get better at being an MMA athlete. So we had to use some things. I mean, of course, I want them to squat more because I want them to be stronger and more powerful. We didn't really have time to teach the Olympic lifts because I could only get them 2 or 3 days a week. So we would use a lot of kettlebell swings and a lot of other explosive type movements that we could incorporate, and was easy to learn.
That's what I was going to ask is what movements maybe, or what styles or lifts, or is there anything specific that you felt like, oh, this is particularly helpful for?
We did a lot of kettlebell swings. We did like twisting motions with the landmine. We did a lot of sled pushing and a lot of battle ropes. So just those kind of things we could use. Now, if I could get them more days a week, I would also want to teach power clean or a full clean even, or squats, because the stronger athlete's a better athlete. But you have to avoid, again, like I said, adding weight, because unless you want to move up a weight class, which is fine.
So I imagine you would say the best base martial art
is wrestling, of course.
Is wrestling.
Yeah, I've thought about that though, since we've had conversations about it, and I think wrestling is probably the best base because you get to dictate where the fight takes place. Does it stay standing? Does it go to the ground? If you can win takedowns. But to further enhance that and to expand on conversation we've had, not on the mic, but it seems like the Dagestani version of wrestling is taken over. And that's because they're using their wrestling against the cage. They're spending their time standing on the cage, doing takedowns and figuring out how to make that work. And I think that's very, very effective. But if you think back, we had similar guys to that, like Randy Couture, who was a folk style American wrestler, but with a strong base in Greco-Roman. And Dan Henderson, before he fell in love with his right hand, could also take anybody down. And Chael was a folk style wrestler with a good Greco base. And you also have DC and Ben Askren. I'm wearing Ben's shirt. They were good wrestlers that had a good strong base and could take you down against the cage. And if you see like Chimaev, good wrestler, Bo Nichols actually, from a pure wrestling standpoint, he's a better wrestler than Chimaev. Chimaev is a better MMA wrestler than Bo is, because Chimaev's going to put you against the cage, somehow, even from taking a shot from probably too far away. He's going to put you against the cage and he's going to take you down.
So speaking of Chimaev,
Yes, sir.
and what did you see the Duplessis fight?
Yeah.
What did you think of that performance?
I mean, Chimaev did exactly what he had to do, and Duplessis needed to work on his anti-wrestling a lot better. To be honest with you, I felt like he only had to work on just staying off the cage because he never was in trouble until Chimaev would push him. He would sprawl. Chimaev would push his foot up against the cage, and then he'd be able to stand up and take him down. So
bringing it home a little bit more, or a little bit closer to home in terms of like what you observe at Combat Night.
Yeah.
Do you see a big, what you might interpret as a big gap in the training that we were just discussing, and between like amateurs and pros? Do you see it progressing? Like, what's it look like from your perspective over the last 10
I think
years?
it's hard if you're a young guy and just coming up. The thing you have to work on the most, I believe, is skills acquisition. So if you're a wrestler and you didn't have a striking base, you need to spend more time working on the striking base and anti-striking to get to your wrestling. If you're a jiu-jitsu guy, you're going to have to learn to work on your takedowns, because nobody's going to let you just pull guard anymore. And so I think you have to work on your deficiencies first. If you're a wrestler just coming out of high school or college, you got a great base, but you better work all your takedowns against the cage. Forget about a takedown in the middle of a mat. That's gone. That's over with. And work on your strikes and your strikes defense going in. Then, if you have time, you can add strength and conditioning. But not only do you have to add the strength part, you also have to add the conditioning part. For instance, every athlete should probably get in 30 minutes to an hour of zone 2 cardio, just to increase your recovery, to speed up your recovery in between rounds and in between flurries. You need some zone 2. If you're a guy like what's the Georgian guy's name? Man, it's escaping me right now. Merab. If you're like Merab, probably don't need to spend much time on zone 2 cardio. I mean, you can spend your time on everything but conditioning. Or Hannah Goldie. We can scrub this out, right? Hannah had one of the highest VO2 scores of anybody in the UFC. So she never would have needed to run. But if you didn't give Hannah a little bit of running, she went stir crazy because she just had to do something. So as a coach, you kind of got to work and look at that in your athletes. Yes, this is what they physically need, but sometimes mentally they need to work on something else just because they need to feel like they're making progress there.
So you mentioned Hannah. So that's obviously a female MMA fighter. And then Jim Allers is featherweight. And then you mentioned Alton and Big Nick, heavyweights.
Yeah.
So big difference. And I know that you would have seen Nick's and Alton's progression, and Hannah's as well, from amateur to all the way to the big league.
Right.
What did you see them make adjustments to the most, or need to make adjustments to the most?
Alton got a lot of exposure over at Fusion XL and did a lot of striking there, which is what he needed. Big Nick, he was with us some, but then he also went up to Ludwig's place too and got a lot of kickboxing there too. They were tough guys. And then Troy Worthen, we saw him too, and I got a chance to corner Troy in at ONE FC in Singapore during the lockdown. That was interesting.
Were you over there when Mitchell fought, or was that different?
They went the next time. Yeah, I went the first time with Troy. Yeah, that was fun.
So I know that you've done quite a bit of world traveling, cornering guys. You were in Abu Dhabi.
I was in Abu Dhabi
with Jim.
Before it was called Fight Island.
Yeah. I want to say that might have even been the first time that they had a UFC event.
I don't know if it's the first, but it was definitely one of the earlier times.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
may have been the first, but I don't want anybody in your comments tripping
Sure.
us up and
It's like,
saying,
no, yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
And I know you went across the pond when Jim was in Cage Warriors.
Yep.
Um,
I've cornered Jim in Bahrain, Jordan, Wales, Ireland. I'm probably leaving someplace out, but somebody will correct me.
and I know that was in the early like 2010s. What was the MMA like community and vibe like that? Because you got a unique perspective getting to see the European side of it.
It was they were very striking heavy and not as grappling and wrestling heavy. So Jim was an early sensation because he was so good on the floor. Yeah.
That was something that we were even just talking about yesterday, is the progression of the game.
Right.
In terms of somebody brings a style, be it unique to their region or whatever, and they make it to the UFC, and then they have some success with it early, and then the game kind of starts to catch up and people figure out, oh, I got to adapt. I got to do this as well. And then one of the points I think I was making when I was talking to you was trying to get a bunch of fights in while you still have that edge.
Still hot.
While you still have that edge before the game catches up. So you have a coach's eye, and you worked with everyone from, you know, amateurs to UFC fighters. What separates the athletes who keep moving forward from the ones who
That's a good question.
plateau?
So, I mean, I've said this before, and pardon me if you've heard it before. You don't have to be the fastest guy or the strongest guy or the smartest guy or the most technically proficient guy to be at the next level or to be the UFC champ. You just have to be fast enough, strong enough, smart enough to do all those things. And you need a little bit of luck. But you see a lot of times guys go from outside the UFC, they make it into the UFC, and then they're kind of sigh and go, oh, I made it. And it's at that point that they need to shift their focus to, okay, now I want to be top 15, or I want to be top 10, or I want to be top 5. And there's very little separation between the skill set of the guys who just made it to the UFC and the guys who are in the top 15 in the UFC. Very little. It's just a matter of will and determination and doing the little things to get there. To get to number one, sometimes there's a huge degree of separation. And sometimes it's mental. I don't think that Khabib is any faster than anybody else. I don't know that he lifts any more weights than anybody else, but he was just had a mind like a steel trap that he was going to win. And same thing with Topuria, same thing with Islam. There's nothing remarkable genetic about them that they do. They're focused and they want that win, and their desire and their goal is to be the champion.
And, you know, they kind of have like a culture of it, right? Where they come from, and something that is, that even I've seen, you know, I grew up overseas as well.
That's right.
And, is like, there's not as many things to do. Whereas in the US, you could be a X gamer, or you could be a video gamer, or you could, like, there's so many different avenues that you can pursue. And in other countries and smaller countries, it's like, man, if you find something that is your groove, you can just like be in it. And it's certainly, if you get any attention from like international, like your sports, your country's like sports leagues or whatever, it's like, oh no, you're a weightlifter, you're gonna be a weightlifter, we're gonna see what we can get out of you for that. And I think that's very different for Americans specifically in comparison to folks from smaller countries that just don't have 100 different sports to compete in.
They don't, but I love this country, and I love the fact that we can choose to do what we want to do. But you're right. In 2003, I think it was, the Republic of Georgia, not Atlanta, Georgia, the Republic, won the world championships in both freestyle wrestling and Greco-Roman wrestling. Now, the country is physically about the size of South Carolina, and same population. And I had the opportunity to ask the coach, how many wrestlers did you have in the country? And he told me, I may be off a few hundred on this, so don't kill me in the comments. He told me they had like 2,500 wrestlers from youth all the way to their top end. But we in our country, we have 275 to 300,000 that just wrestle in high school. So we had 10 times the numbers that they did, 100 times the numbers that they did. And we weren't developing that kind of athletes because, to your point, we had choices. If a guy's a heavyweight wrestler and he's really athletic, he may go play D1 football.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him, you know, or he may play basketball. Who knows? But over there, you're right. It was limited choices. So.
Can you imagine what, say, if you took away our major sports, took away basketball and football, and think about the type of humans that we have competing in those sports and funneled them into other things like weightlifting and wrestling and boxing?
It'd be crazy.
It would be crazy to see.
Yeah. Our defensive linemen in Olympic weightlifting. Oh, that'd be wild.
Yeah, that would be wild.
But I mean, I wouldn't ask them to give up their $10-20 million a year to go make 25 grand.
Well, that's why they're trying to make it in the NFL versus even MMA for that matter. So I wanted to circle back to you a little bit in terms of, you know, you have a CrossFit and BJJ gym that you run. You have a day job.
Yeah.
Also, that's not those things.
Correct.
Real estate, etc. Still find time to be involved in, you know, coaching and officiating. Yeah. Why?
So I want to get back, and that's an interesting question. Why? I enjoy it. I enjoy being around the sport. I don't have as much time as I did when I was actually coaching those athletes through the system. So that's why I decided, kind of looked around and saw where else can I help. And I felt like judging and or officiating might be the best place I could help. I still coach a wrestling class once a week at my place. And that's mostly for the BJJ guys to learn a little bit of wrestling. Also, I kind of lost my way when I was in my 20s and 30s, sports and otherwise. And I just felt like if I could help somebody else find their way while they're going through all that, then it's my way of giving back a little bit, because I wish somebody had said, hey, don't do that, do this. Hey, this is the way that it's got to be done. But I mean, that's just a function of the time that I grew up in. When I was going to high school, you're told don't squat, you'll ruin your knees. I went away to college. First day I get to Clemson, they hand me a workout and it's squats and deadlifts. And I go, what happened to ruining your knees? They're like, we don't believe in that. Get to work.
Well, you know, and to that point, there are ways that you can squat that will ruin your knees and back.
True. Yeah.
And so there is some truth to that, but if you lift right.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, the good Lord created our joints to move through a full range of motion, and we need to move everything that way just so we can last.
Well, credit to your facility. I'm squatting more at 46 years old than I was at 36 years old. So, and squatting correctly, pain-free.
That's the biggie. I mean, because we always say the reason that you work out is to stay healthy, and the opposite of healthy is injured. So, like, probably the opposite of healthy is really dead, but that's a little morbid.
So how long have you been involved with judging and officiating?
Oh man, I probably started judging with Combat Night. I would guess 6 years. I've been doing it professionally for the state for, I don't know, 3 or 4.
So obviously been involved with observing officiating and stuff even longer than that. What type of progress have you seen?
They just changed the rules. They just changed the judging rules, which I'm not a big fan of quite yet.
And I'm speaking also to the quality of it. Like, I know that from my perspective, I've seen some officials come down the pike over the last, 5-6 years that it's getting better and better.
I think it is getting better. And I think people are starting to understand more components of it rather than either being, hey, I'm a striking guy or I'm a grappling guy. You have to understand the entirety of the sport.
And, from the shout out to Larry Folsom, rest in peace. He's certainly was a spearhead on improving the quality of the officiating that was happening in Florida.
Right.
And he was our original official from very first combat night. And it was for him, like, seeing somebody he was a black belt in jiu-jitsu, black belt in judo. And I know that those are pretty high credentials to have any expectation that a judge or an official is going to have.
Yeah.
But it was fantastic to have somebody that was that heavily involved in the sport be, part of having the say so over positions and outcomes and stuff like that. And I feel like that has gotten to be more the case.
Yeah. And I hear a lot of times the officials will talk and they'll hand advice down to the younger guys. Oh, well, here's what Larry told me. So, I mean, the spirit of Larry still lives on. Rest his soul.
Yeah. He was a huge influence. And even, with yourself as well, having the martial arts and the wrestling background, what's the big difference between being in the cage, that official, and the judge on the outside?
That's interesting. So I didn't talk about prior to that. I also refereed high school and college wrestling. So, which is more difficult because not only are you refereeing, but you're also scoring the match for everybody. So sitting outside the cage, all you're doing is scoring the match. In the cage, all you're doing is refereeing. So it's really kind of easier than wrestling. What do I think? Outside the cage, I view as a little bit tougher because you're paying attention to, okay, are his strikes more valuable than his takedowns? Or is his grappling a little bit better than his kicks are? So you're always scoring that. Whereas a referee, you're making sure that everybody stays safe. And really, that's it. I mean, you stop the fight because somebody's not safe. You stop the fight because somebody hit an illegal blow or grabbed a fence or did something else unsafe. So not to hate on Florida Man and Isaiah, but I'd say refereeing's easier.
So both heavily criticized positions to be in, whether you're in the cage in the moment,
sure.
Because obviously if the fight comes to a finish, then the judge is outside.
They didn't have to do anything.
They didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
But if it goes the distance, then all types of interpretation of action and flow and control and damage and everything comes into play. So everybody becomes a referee in the comments.
Correct.
And so that's one of those things where it's like, man, there's quite a lot of pressure. Mitchell often touts that as, certainly one of the toughest jobs in MMA is to be the referee.
Yeah, I think judging's harder.
And your face is out there, so
yeah. True. I mean, when you're reffing, you're in there, but I mean, you're not responsible for the outcome of the fight as a referee, unless there's only sometimes that I can say you are responsible, and that's when you change where the fight's taking place. If somebody's on the ground and you don't feel like they're advancing, so you pull them up and stand them up, you might have changed the fight a little bit. If somebody's just holding somebody against a cage and you allow that to continue, well, now you've only given the judge one type of fight to judge, and all I can judge is who controlled against the cage, because that's all you gave me.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy controlling against the cage was probably the aggressor, probably a more effective striker. He's going to win the round.
Did you happen to catch any Canelo Crawford? It was on late.
I saw the first two fights and I was thinking maybe I can make it, and then I fell asleep. So
I soldiered on and stayed up and watched it, and I think it was a good fight.
Yeah,
it went to all 12 rounds. Crawford put on an incredible show. I think what I discovered is I just wasn't that big a fan of boxing.
Yeah.
And in comparison to MMA, like if
Right.
there was not MMA, I'd be a bigger fan of boxing, but in
Right.
comparison to the two. And so I jumped into the comments to see what like some of the folks were just saying about the fight. And they're like, oh, Crawford was running. He was running the whole fight. And what I observed was like, oh, Canelo was moving forward the whole time,
Yeah.
but he was getting battered for it.
Yeah.
And
I saw the highlights, so I'm just commenting on the highlights.
Yeah. And this, the scorecards kind of reflected that Crawford won decisively.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just, it's always interesting to see a public perspective of activities that they are not.
Yeah. I don't know if they understand the criteria truly for MMA judging.
Mm-hmm.
And now they've
talk
changed
about that.
Now they've changed it. So the number one is it used to be impact. Actually, it used to be effective grappling, effective striking. But now they have gone to damage, and damage can mean impact. So you have to read the definitions of how they define damage, because if you just take damage at its face value, Nate Diaz would lose every single fight. I mean, because he's marked up and beat up, but sometimes he's the guy given the beating, even though he's most damaged. So their damage is the effectiveness of the striking and the grappling. So how it should be judged is, and how it's supposed to be judged is, if you, Ramsey, are the most effective striker and more effective than my grappling is, that's the criteria. You just won the round 10-9. We don't go the second criteria. The second criteria, if we're equal, my grappling's equal to your striking, and the judges are scratching their head thinking, well, I don't know who won that round. Well, then it goes to who was more aggressive. So if Canelo and Crawford were equal and their striking was compatible, well, who's moving forward? You told me Canelo was, so Canelo's the aggressor, so he wins the round. And then if the aggression and the effectiveness are equal, then you look at cage control. So sometimes I will hear from people, well, how could that guy have won that round? He didn't control the cage at all. Well, that wasn't in the criteria. The criteria was effective striking and effective grappling. Who won that one? That's it. Probably 75 to 80% of the time, you never get past that criteria. You never get to aggression. And I can't think of any fight that I've ever, or any round that I've ever had to go to, well, who controlled the cage the best? Because the other criteria is ahead of that.
Something that we've talked about before is like, okay, so absent obvious damage, what does impactful striking look like?
Oh, well, good question. So some of the things you can look for at impact, if you're leg kicking me, and now I've just switched, and previously I hadn't switched stances, and now I've switched stances, your leg kicks were impactful enough that you've taken me away from my game plan and made me now a southpaw instead of orthodox, because I don't want you kicking that front leg anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that's impactful. You have to watch for that. Another thing, let's say you're the left-hander and you throw a straight left. Every time you throw the straight left, I shoot in and get a double leg. I take you down, we stand back up. So I didn't really do any damage on the ground. But if my takedowns stop you from throwing your left hand and you haven't thrown it again, those takedowns were impactful. So there are little things that look to be impactful. Now, does that take credence over if you knock me down 2 times with a big kick? No. It's something that can almost or comes close to ending the fight. That's impactful. That's the most impactful thing.
Yeah, and you explained it right then just the exact same way you did to me previously. And it makes a lot of sense to think that, like, oh, if whatever I'm doing is making you change your game plan or go away from your optimal weapon, then that is impactful, even absent damage. So
damage to the
at
face.
At the end of the boxing fight last night, Canelo was just a little bit like bruised up and lumped up. And in the course of one of the exchanges, there was a headbutt. And so Crawford did have a cut, but it didn't come from a punch.
Yeah,
it came from a headbutt. And that's something that even in MMA to take into consideration, like the way like groin strikes can impact
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
the course of a fight, to where it's like, yeah, it can be deemed incidental, or it can be so egregious that it like makes them lose a point. But what you can never make up for is the actual
It hurts.
the actual pain that it
Yeah,
causes,
yeah.
and trying to recover from that. And so many times we hear from the crowd, oh, come on, hurry up, get up, let's go. It's
Take
like
the full 5
they
minutes,
get 5
brother.
minutes to recover from this before they have to go and continue to fight for their life.
And sometimes you need the full 5 minutes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you'll see sometimes guys will relinquish it for whatever reason. They might have
Yeah.
felt like, oh, I was pushing a pace, and that was desperation, or they just get pressured by the crowd
Yeah.
and don't take it. So it's interesting to see that. But
And a lot of times in the especially in kickboxing, amateur kickboxing,
mhm.
if you have a southpaw and an orthodox guy, I almost guarantee you're going to get a couple groin strikes because of the way they're standing. And it's not intentional. Please let the guy live. Let him breathe. Let him come back. Yeah.
But this is not something that's taken into consideration judging wise.
No. Not there unless the referee takes a point for it.
Right.
So and that's another thing. Even as a judge, if I'm sitting there watching something and I think it was illegal, but the referee didn't take a point for it, I don't get to make the determination that it was illegal. If a guy grabbed the fence to keep himself up and he didn't get a takedown, judge should have taken a point for that. I mean, referee should have taken a point for that. I don't get to make that decision unless he stands up and gives us a signal of that was won. Nothing we can do about it. We have to score the fight that we're given.
That's interesting. That's actually something I've never thought about in that way before. Like as a judge, it's like, no, even if the ref doesn't call it, it's like, I saw it, I know it impacted hand, I'm going to let that reflect on my score sheet, and that's just not.
You can't do it.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't take a point if the ref didn't take the point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can see things that the referee doesn't see that are certainly impactful. I mean, like leg kicks are impactful. If anybody doesn't believe that leg kicks are impactful, go let somebody kick you.
Right.
Because it's, oh man, I hear that all the time. Oh, he's just leg kicking him. Brother, he changed his stance because he's getting leg kicked. He didn't want that heat anymore. It hurts.
And you know, judges are also only watching it from their
angle. Yeah. There's been times where I have seen, and I've talked to Cox sitting next to me, go, I think he got thumbed in the eye. And you look at it from our angle, and he might have got thumbed in the eye. But then when you go look at the camera and he turns around and shows it to you, no, he didn't. Got caught with the corner of the glove. Okay. But from where I was sitting, I wasn't sure what happened.
So have you worked with, I know you've worked with other promotions, with anybody that fully incorporates instant replay? I know it's kind of hit or miss with us. Like we have it available, but we don't have a conventional like all angle replay. So
PFL had it, but it was for the referees making the decisions on something. I think they only used it one time when I was judging, and then it wasn't anything that was related to me or anything that I had to change.
I know that,
but they also have a monitor right there sitting in front of you, so you could, if they get tucked away in a corner, instead of standing up and looking, you can look down at the monitor. I had a hard time doing that because I felt like since I'm watching it live, I need to watch it from the live perspective and not look at the monitor.
Not look at the broadcast. Yeah, that's it. I know that our replay has been referenced, you know, a handful of times since we've had it over the last few years. I want to say it's primarily over like illegal strikes where they're trying to determine like, oh, maybe somebody can't continue. And then they're like, you know, he didn't even hit him in the groin or whatever. That was in the sternum.
Yeah.
But I'd like for us to continue developing that system.
Yeah. I mean, it's good that you get it right.
Right.
You know, but then there's some situations where, let's say in amateurs, knee to the head. Okay. He was throwing a teep kick. At the same time he's throwing the teep kick, the guy that runs in for a double leg, he catches a knee to the head. We all saw him take a knee to the head. Was it intentional? Was it worth taking a point away? I mean, that's up to the referees. I know they've looked at that before. and that's a toughie.
And with amateur cards, it can be the wild, wild west in terms of rules, because you've got a Muay Thai bout, then you got a kickboxing bout, then you got an MMA bout, and the judges aren't changing. It's the same judges, but the criteria certainly changes from one to one. And I know from our viewers, like our fans' perspective, they see a kickboxing fight and they're like, "Oh, this was an illegal elbow," and they're like, "You can't elbow," and it's like, "Well, no, you can't. It's an amateur bout."
Right.
And so it's difficult to even differentiate. Like, what am I even seeing to know? Now, judges obviously know and are aware, but for viewers outside, it's like.
But again, if there's an illegal elbow thrown, unless the referee calls it an illegal elbow, even if I saw it as an elbow, I can't take a point.
Yeah. We had a clip last week that we posted where a fighter threw a spinning technique, and it landed high up here.
But his intention was to go to the glove.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of what the outcome. I think we might have left it open-ended on the short for like open to interpretation by the viewers, and quite a lot of confusion. What my understanding is that, well, fighters are responsible for where their strikes land with what lands.
Yeah.
So even if you are if you're throwing a spinning back fist and it hits so high up that it's borderline on the elbow, and the ref calls it that, then it's like, well, then that's what it is. It's your fault. Don't throw the technique you're not really in control of.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know what point I was trying to make with that exactly, but
that's tough from a spectator standpoint to understand that.
Right.
I mean, unless they've read the rule books and
there's the bucket of rule books, because like I said, you're watching different contests. So how do you feel like combat sports is going in general, and then also like in Florida specifically?
I think the level in Florida, I'm going to take them in reverse order. I think the level in Florida has dramatically improved over the last 10, 15 years. In fact, 10, 15 years ago, all the coaches were specialized. You had a wrestling coach, you had a jiu-jitsu coach, you had a striking coach. I think you're now seeing coaches that are good at all three. I mean, I'm going to point to Jim Allers again. He's proficient in striking, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu. So he was raised doing all three. So now that you have coaches that coach all three, I think that's raising the level. I think that's what's doing it. And worldwide, it's getting a lot better. I mean, a lot better. And it's probably gaining more acceptance. I mean, I know it's gaining more acceptance.
Yeah, it's definitely getting more popular.
And look at the Paramount deal. They wouldn't have paid that if it wasn't growing.
We'll take a crumb of that.
Yeah. And talking about coaches, and talking about young athletes coming up, I just want to, this popped into my head, and it's not a question you asked, but I want to use it anyway. So I tell all my CrossFit coaches and all the coaches that I've had, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. So if I know you're my coach and you care about me and you want what's best for me, I'm going to believe every single thing that Ramsey tells me, because he's looking out for my best interest, and he loves me. So I'm going to have faith in him. So guys, look for a coach that believes in you and is looking out for your best interest. Now, even if you get and you make it to the big leagues, dance with the one who brung you there, because they're looking out for your best interest. I mean, you look at, I don't like this guy, but we'll use him as an example. Conor McGregor never changed camps, stayed with his original guys all the way through, from being a part-time plumber and Cage Warriors champion to UFC champion and one of the biggest names. He stayed in the same camp. Demetrius Johnson, same thing. And he'll tell you he didn't work out with a bunch of big time guys. I've heard his podcast lately. He said he worked out with hobbyists sometimes, and that's important. I want to talk about the 3 partners you need too. But you stick with somebody who cares about you, because they're going to make the best decisions for you as an athlete, because they care about your welfare.
What's that look like? What's a coach that cares about you look like?
Wow. What does that look like? I mean, you know it, you feel it. He asks how you're doing, checks on you, creates a path for you to get to fulfill your goals that you want to succeed in, and helps you develop them if you don't understand what your goals are. Goes out of his way to be at the events that you're at, make sure that you're brought along, and doesn't just cookie cutter it. And hey, if you won't do it, the next guy behind you will. There may be some truth to that. Not everybody's meant to be in the UFC. Not everybody's meant to be a UFC champ. And it depends on what you're chasing. If you're chasing to be a UFC champ, then find somebody else who believes with you and will carry the path with you.
And so as a coach, what are you looking for in a fighter?
Oh, wow.
To commit yourself to that,
Anybody who shows up and does what we ask of them, I'll commit myself to them. That's if they believe and they're buying in and they're showing up for practices and doing what we ask them to do, and that's who I want to put my time in. If somebody's always questioning you or arguing with you, or I don't want to do that, coach. Well, then maybe there's a point at which you don't coach that athlete anymore.
Yeah.
But that's fine too. Oh, back to 3 points before I forget it, because I'm old. You need three partners. And what reminded me of it was Demetrius Johnson saying he worked out a lot with hobbyists. You need one partner who is better than you, who can beat you, because you're striving to beat him someday in practice. That's one. Number 2, you need somebody who's about equal to you. So you know about what you're given. Sometimes you get the best of him. Sometimes he gets the best of you. That's okay. And then you need a third guy or girl who is every time you try something on, it works. So if you're working on, for instance, passing guard going to the right, you haven't gotten that technique perfected, that's the one you're going to be. That's who you're going to work on that with first. Then you'll move it up to the second guy. And if you can get it on the third guy, who is the guy who always beats you, you've accomplished and you've got the technique down pat. Now, does that mean that you need bad people? No. The guy who you can beat initially in the very beginning, hopefully they improve too, because you're the guy that they could never beat. So you're the one bringing them along. So hopefully there's evolution throughout the entire time, but you need 3 different types of practice partners.
So, that kind of speaks to developing a community. So there's I know I've been around a few different gym cultures and communities on the fitness side of things. Is that different on the combat sports side?
Yes and no. I mean, the tone is set by the leadership and the tone is set by the coaches. So from that standpoint, yes, it's similar. It's a little bit different when you beat each other up and then you're hugging and you're laughing and you're buddies afterwards. So yeah, there's a special bond when you both know, hey, I just tried to beat your ass, you just tried to beat mine, and we're good afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little different in combat sports. But there's some similarities.
Sure. So at Combat Night, we see a lot of young athletes making the jump to MMA. What do you think they need to understand about lifting, recovery, smart training, if they want to make it long term? So
again, back to what we talked about in the beginning, you are an MMA athlete, number 1. So you need to work on skills acquisition and becoming a better artist, mixed martial artist, number 1. Number 2, if your goal is to become and realize the best that you can be, then you do need to pay attention to all the other things, nutrition, and you probably need to get 2 to 5 strength and conditioning sessions in per week. Now, strength and conditioning can be 2 CrossFit classes a week, let's say. And then you could get 1 VO2 max workout a week, and then 2 zone 2 cardio workouts a week, depending on where you are and what your needs are. That's what they should be looking at. You should definitely optimize your nutrition, optimize your sleep, because those two, I used to say when I was younger, I'll sleep when I die. Well, that comes a lot quicker if you're not sleeping enough and recovering enough.
So, yeah, even specifically with young athletes like my daughter, who is, she's wrestling, and she's trying to figure these things out and dial these things in. And she asks me stuff, sometimes like, oh, like I want to do CrossFit workouts as well, as her wrestling training and stuff is ramping up.
Right.
And so she's asking like, how should I approach these workouts?
So go first and foremost, she needs to, because her sport's going to be wrestling. So she should never use the CrossFit workout as a substitute for a wrestling workout. Wrestling has to come number one. She should never do something, let's say Wednesday at her school is match day, and she wants to perform real well on match day. Then she shouldn't do anything the day before that's going to tire her out from a CrossFit standpoint. Now, if she wants to come in after her match day at practice on Wednesday and do a CrossFit workout, good. But you need to pick probably 2 days a week during season to do a CrossFit style workout to improve your strength and conditioning.
And what about like choosing weights and stuff like within the workout? Like
choosing weights, yeah.
Is it important to finish this workout, or is it important to try and lift something a little bit heavier that I know might keep me from finishing the workout?
What are we looking? If we're looking to improve strength, then I would say you don't need to be as focused on finishing the workout. You need to be thinking about adding a little bit more weight. If what Raina wants to work on is increasing her conditioning, then dropping the weight a little bit, going a little faster. Yeah, that's and it's individualized. I happen to know that she's strong enough to always use the prescribed weight. Sometimes she won't because she wants to go faster.
Right. And that's one of those things where it's like, well, I want to finish.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the truth is she's strong enough to finish.
Got to make it burn.
That's right. It's gonna suck, but you can finish. And the something else we have not talked about, but even younger athletes, let's say before high school, beginning of high school, middle school athletes, if there's any moms or dads out there listening, it's at this point that your child can develop athleticism. I think once you're 19 or 20 years old, don't nail me in the comments on this if I'm off by a year or two, you are done developing your athleticism. As an adult, as an old person like me, I can still develop certain skills, but I cannot increase my athleticism. I did that long ago. So while your child is in middle school and high school, let them be athletes. Let them play soccer, increase their agility, play baseball, whatever sport that you want them to do. They don't need a hitting coach at 13 years old. They can develop that skill as a 19-year-old. Just let them be athletes when they're young. Let them be strong and athletic as you possibly can build them to be until they're 18 or 19. At that point, they're going to choose their sport. I don't know of anybody that's choosing MMA prior to that age.
I feel like it's getting younger.
It might be getting there.
But certainly kickboxing, we've had a handful of youth bouts and stuff. And man, the level of the youth.
Some of those kids are good.
Here is insane.
Yeah. And I mean, the one thing, and I'm going to pimp for wrestling again. Wrestling is the only martial art that's given to you for free in our public high schools. So you can develop that at the high school.
Free's debatable, ain't it?
Well, in theory, you're not paying for the coaching. How about that?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So you've been an athlete, coach, gym owner, businessman, judge. Looking back at all of it, if there's anything like, what do you hope people might remember most about your love of the sport, impact on the sport.
Man, I don't know. I truly, I hope it's just the ripple effect. I hope that the guys that I've been able to touch go on to touch other young men and young women and help them become what she said.
She said, she said, sounds sus.
She said, sounds sus. I don't know if you guys can hear that. I meant touch their lives, not personally, physically touch them. So I think that I would like to see those athletes be impactful on the lives. How about that? Catch me outside. How about that? To be impactful in the lives of others and create a ripple effect. So if I've changed or helped 5 or 6 people, I hope they can help 5 or 6, and those 5 or 6 can help another 5 or 6, and it's a ripple effect.
So tell me, what's your craziest moment that you've had being around, we'll say, mixed martial arts?
Man, I don't know. There's a lot of crazy ones. Goodness gracious. Have I told you one that you have in mind?
Mm-mm. In all of your world travels.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that there's a few of them that pop to the forefront of my mind, but I don't want to get anybody in trouble, so I'm going to file those away. I mean, there's just a lot of craziness out there. I don't know.
Well, I know you're wearing a Ben Askren shirt.
I am wearing a Ben Askren shirt.
This is a guy that you know.
I know Ben Askren.
How did you get to know him?
That's a pretty wild story too. So Ben, at the time I met him, I think he'd been in NCAA finals twice. He had not won yet. He took second place 2 times. And there was a coach in Jensen Beach named Ben Tomes who brought Ben Askren down to do a camp. And he called me and said, hey, do you and the Russian guys, they weren't Russian, they were Georgian, but he called them Russian guys, are you guys wrestling a club tonight? And we said, yeah, we're going to wrestle. And he goes, can I send Ben Askren over? I said, yeah, sure. Send him over. And Ben came and he wrestled with Ofto, the guy who coaches at Ben Stark's place. And Ofto got the better of Ben. And I think Ben was surprised because he's one of the best guys in the country at that time. And Ofto was probably 40 years old then. And then, so I didn't really know Ben. And the stories about Ben were that he was some wild child and just kind of out there and harebrained. And the next day, Ben called and said, hey, can you get Ofto to come over again? I said, sure. So the next day, Ben comes over and he starts wrestling with Ofto. And this time, Ben's brought a notebook. And they would go through a situation and they would wrestle through it. And afterwards, Ben would stop and goes, okay, I did this. What did you do? And Ofto would show him. Ben would sit down there, write in his notebook. Okay, let's go back to wrestling. And that carried on that whole night for about an hour and a half. Just Ben writing in his notebook. And I suddenly realized he's not some harebrained kid. He's a very determined, driven person. And I gained a whole new respect for Ben at that point. He came down and did that camp over the years, and he would come and stay with us and wrestle with us. And I gained a whole new respect for Ben. I mean, he won the NCAA championships the next 2 years. He qualified for the Olympic team and actually made it to the Olympics in Beijing in 2008. Funny thing, and I guess I posted on Facebook before I was banned that I was in Beijing, and Ben saw it on Facebook and texted me or messaged me. I don't remember exactly the medium. Hey, what are you guys doing today? Okay, we're going to Tiananmen Square. He goes, what time? We told him what time. He goes, I'll see you there. So he showed up in Tiananmen Square with us, scared a lot of the locals. He would jump into people's pictures and scream at them and had a lot of fun with that. So I got to see him at the Olympics. And then when he won his Bellator title, I actually flew up along with the same guy who brought him down for the clinics and the camps to see him win the Bellator title, and that was really cool. So I mean, I've stayed in touch with him on and off throughout the years, and he's one of my favorite people in wrestling. He may be the most important folk style wrestler that we've had that I've known of because of of what he's brought to our sport. And I know that he's most famous in the UFC for getting knocked out by George Masvidal. But I know the guy who's our Olympic team member, 2-time NCAA champ, hard worker, Bellator world champ, ONE FC world champ. And it's back to something we talked about earlier. He wasn't the fastest guy. In fact, he's probably not fast in a foot race at all. He wasn't the strongest guy, strong enough, fast enough, but he was mentally prepared to be a world champion. So back to what's the difference? It was that desire and that will to be the difference. So I like Ben. Wishing me a speedy recovery.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I'll segue that into favorite. Do you have a favorite fighter that you've enjoyed watching compete over the years?
Favorite. I really like Hendo. Dan Henderson, not Hendo. I enjoyed watching Khabib. I enjoyed watching. Right now, I really like Ilia Topuria. I like Marab. Favorite though, favorite. I'm gonna have to probably say Hendo of all time.
Yeah, he's a good one.
Yeah,
I think DC is mine.
DC, DC's up there. Yeah, DC was on that same Olympic team with Ben Askren in 2008, so he was out there. That was a pretty. So on that team, they had Henry Cejudo, DC, Ben Askren, and do you know Steve Mako? He's the wrestling coach now down at ATT. But I think Mako had a few pro fights. Kayla Harrison does Mako Monday with him on Instagram every Monday. So that's Steve Mako. But those were the guys on that team.
Killers.
One of the other guys on that team is a guy named Doug Schwab, who's now the head coach at Northern Iowa and wrestling coach. So, I mean, that was a freaking stellar team. It was a good group of guys.
All right. So as we're winding down, let me hit you with the fun questions. So we're still holding on to asking the do 100 men versus a gorilla.
Yeah. 100 men versus a gorilla.
Yeah. We framed it a couple different ways.
Okay.
So you choose them versus going down to Walmart and grabbing 100 guys.
Here's the thing. The first 5 guys are going to get killed. So who's going to go first? The first 10 might get killed. I mean, if the gorilla runs out of gas, yeah, the guys will eventually get him. But man, I'm going with the gorilla. Because I don't think you can convince 100 guys, hey, you're going to die, or 99 of you, you're going to die. To give it up for him to live.
See, it's like if out of 100 guys, one of them's a savage.
Yeah.
Like a real savage.
Yeah.
And if he goes first,
he's done.
He's still getting it.
Yeah.
So you're still going to have to expect a lot of guys to come behind him to have this heart that the first one had, but he got it bad.
Yeah. I just don't see it.
Here's Mitchell's other question that he's been asking is 108-year-olds versus you.
Oh, I kill him.
Finally, someone that's talking some sense.
Yeah,
that's what I said.
What's on the line?
He started having to describe him as like meth crazed
8-year-olds,
like cyborgs. Yeah, I was like, no.
Yeah. But I mean, if there's no repercussions,
he said 100 cadence.
Cadence?
Mhm.
Oh, no problem.
Light work.
I hope you're listening, Caden.
You might be.
Yeah.
Hey man, well, I've
Now,
enjoyed
I
it.
don't know about 100 Charlies. No,
That's a lot of sass.
yeah, that's a lot.
Yes, Ashley. That. Well, do you think we missed anything that you might have wanted to comment on?
No,
or-
I mean, did you get everything you wanted?
Yeah,
I didn't tell any jokes.
you got one.
No.
Well, that won't make you tell one.
Yeah.
Hey man, well, I appreciate it. I think what you're doing over at TAN is fantastic, and it's been a pleasure for me to be a part of that community.
We're glad you're a part of the community, and your whole family. Love them.
Yeah, it's been great for us.
Except
We
when
really
Raina
enjoy it.
punches me in the head.
Raina did put your son to sleep.
Oh, that's true.
We're gonna have to go ahead and just put that on record here. just get her back. I mean, that's all you gotta do.
Yeah.
Hey man, well, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm glad that we got a chance to get you in here, and
Yeah.
I'd love to have you back sometime and share a lot of good information. I think the guys should heed.
Yeah, I'd love to hear some feedback and questions.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see you guys next week. We'll be back here at the Combat Night headquarters, which will be moving soon to an undisclosed location. So we're looking forward to that. But October 11th, we'll be in South Florida, Hallandale for a pro show. And October 18th, we'll be back in Orlando for an amateur card downtown at the Beecham. But before that, we'll see you next week. Take care.
Are you ready for combat night?